Hi there and welcome to my latest book haul, and this time they're not borrowed from the library, they're all purchases with 3 exceptions which were free. So without further ado, let's begin. First up we have this Mary Wollstonecraft and Mary Shelley, and it's 3 feminist short stories, Mary, Maria and Matilda. I really know absolutely nothing about this, but you can't really expect anything less than the best from these 2 writers. And then we have this, Tobias Smollett, The Expedition of Humphrey Clinker. It's told in the form of letters, and these will recount the same event from multiple perspectives, and the characters are also from different social classes. Some of them are barely literate. It's very amusing the way it's assembled. I've read it before, but I intend to read it again. Then we have this. It's Adam Michnik, and this will go with my growing number of books which centre on life in prison, specifically political prisoners. I just find this whole area fascinating. I read the beginning of this. He was a member of Solidarity in Poland, and it begins with him saying why he won't sign a piece of paper that would allow him to walk free, and it moves on from there. Then a Spanish text. It's Luis Sepulveda. He died just a few years ago, I believe. One of the first people in Spain to die from COVID-19. And this is the old man who loved romance novels. And actually, I have to show it again. As soon as I saw this cover, I knew I was going to purchase this book. Mexican publishing house, really nicely produced. Then an old favourite, Italo Calvino, Difficult Loves. It's short stories. I've read a few since I picked this up, and they're pretty good actually. I was hugely into Calvino back in the 90s when it seems like everyone else was into him too. If on a winter's night, A Traveller, Invisible Cities, Our Ancestors, they were magnificent. But in the decades since, I've rather lost touch with his work. Reading these again brought it all back. Then J.M. Coetzee, Disgrace. Like Ishiguro, this is the Knowing My Enemy section of the library that this is going into. It's for my PhD project on the world novel, which I must be honest, I detest. I really can't bear this guy's writing, but I have to read it to criticize it. And it was really cheap this time, barely $2 there. Then another exemplar of the world novel. It's Orhan Pamuk with his breakthrough novel, The White Palace. I've read most of this, and yes, like the Coetzee, it's absolutely terrible. Please let me know why people read this stuff. I've got absolutely no idea. It's a mystery. It is more colourful than the Coetzee, but still, so Orientalist in its portrayal of Islam. No. Then a journal. This is one of the free things that I picked up this week, and this was of interest because it's on something I'm interested in, the ineffable and the unsaid. And even more delightfully, the last article is about Wilkie Collins' No Name, one of my favourite novels. Then this was free as well, The Norton Guide to Teaching Literature by Women, and it was put together by Sandra Gilbert, Susan Gubar and Lisa Harper. Now the first 2 of those names are extremely big names in women's studies. They produced this monster, The Mad Woman in the Attic, which is really great. The woman writer and the 19th century literary imagination. Anyone into women's writing of this period really has to get to grips with this great book. Then popular history. It's this City of Fortune. It traces the history of Venice from the year 1000 to 1500. I'm a sucker for this kind of narrative history. I have some serious straight histories down there, but I also really appreciate the more readable types. So I read just the opening. It was excellent. Then another free book. Why would anyone throw this away or give it away? C.S. Lewis, The Allegory of Love. It's about the tradition of courtly love. And again, that's a great find. More criticism. Language and Silence by George Steiner. A wonderful public intellectual, a great humanist, scholar. He has many videos up on YouTube, and I really love the sound of his voice. It's just so smooth. Much missed. Then the heavyweight books. This time around we have Nietzsche, his life and activity, or his philosophical activity. It's a very long title there, and it's by Karl Jaspers. Wow, very serious picture there. Look at that. Useful for the class on nihilism, no doubt. Then this book, it's literary criticism. I read this back in the late 90s. I would never have dreamed I'd be picking it up again in 2023, but it is very useful because it summarizes the main schools of criticism as they've worked their way out in the American Academy, but it's still applicable to Europe, and it's still useful out here in Southeast Asia, which after all is something of a satellite of the American college system. And then finally we have The Role of the Reader by Umberto Eco. Various chapters on literary topics, and they're really pretty technical, brain stretching, to be honest. I've read just one so far. It took me about 3 days, and I was just like, do I really get this or not? It's about open texts. So there we have it. Those are all my latest purchases and a few free books. Let me know if you have any thoughts on them, if you've already read some of them and can tell me their joys. That would be great. But now I must bid you farewell. So until the next time, be safe, be strong, nanu nanu.